Hello and welcome to Sheffield Hopcast. It's a bit of a Christmas special and something that we've not done before, but we've been threatening to do for ages because we've talked about home brewing quite a few times on the Hopcast, and we did have plans this year to kind of, venture into meeting up with one or two kind of local homebrew clubs, but COVID put paid to that. But here we are now then. So exactly, what is it, just under 2 weeks now until Christmas? So less than a fortnight to go until Christmas. And we've had a busy week because we have been, through the course of the week, we've been drinking lots of beer, which is, a hard job, but someone's got to do it. To help judge the Penistone Homebrew Club brewing competition. So I'll tell you more about this in a second. Let's say our hellos first of all. Laura is looking very festive this evening. Hi, Laura. Is that a little robin on your top there?
Yeah, it's a selection of festive birds and with an attached little neck warmer as well that's actually part of the same garment.
Oh, so that looks very nice.
One of my festive favourites. So, yeah.
I like that. There's something very, very retro about that. It looks very, very nice. Adam, you're well known for your Christmas attire. What have you got?
Remember this one? Remember this one from the other year?
He's got the fuller.
Got my Home Alone one on. I have increased my Home Alone t-shirts to 4. 2 more homemade ones based on the truck, the little truck thing that the bad guys have. They call it OK, sort of plumbing or something. Yeah. So yeah, but I've not worn that today. But yeah, just keeping this one. I know Sean liked this one because he said it wasn't a Christmas jumper. It's tenuous, but it's a t-shirt as well. So.
Speaking of Sean, I mean, if you've listened to our previous Christmas specials, Sean is well known for getting into the spirit of wearing all kinds of Christmas attire. And this year, no different, he's come as a pitch black winter night, which, I mean, there's nothing more Christmassy than that. Sean dressed all in black. Hello, Sean.
Je m'appelle Sean. I'm the artistic director at a beautiful French art gallery on the edge of the River Seine in Paris, and I'm in all black. Yeah, French cool, James.
Cooled. I can't even say it.
Cool. Foie. Il fait
Sean,
foie.
You've judged this before in the real world. So how does this compare?
Normally, James, this normally involves me leaving work early or having the full day off. In the rain and the dark, catching a train from Woomwell station to Penistone station, just the other side of Barnsley, a short walk to St John's Church, walking through the main front door to have a pile of excellent Penistone homebrewers sat around a big round table, Percy Turner's pork pies and mushy peas just in the little sort of kitchen galley area just off the main church point. And then we sit down and sometimes a few snacks as well, just to sort of prepare us for the pork pies later. There is a vegan option as well, which is a no pork pie. And then we get stuck into the beers and then rather dizzily try and catch the train home late on before a taxi back to home and an apology to Deb as I climb into bed.
Nice. So we've got 8 beers that we've drunk through the course of the week. We've got 1 left that we're all going to drink on the show.
Yeah, we've had 7 and this one to come. Yeah,
I mean, they're all relatively strong beers. I'm amazed that you would normally just down them all in one night. I've struggled to get through them all in the course of a week, to be honest. So I think it's impressive that normally you'd manage to finish them all in an evening. So.
As we'll see from Geoff and Jack's input shortly, that there are a bunch of show-offs at Penistone Homebrew Club. And so Bull Gidget tends to get sneered at a little bit.
Fair dues. As Sean mentioned there, we have a couple of guests joining us, and indeed a couple of entrants in the competition. We'll speak to Jack first of all. How are you doing, Jack?
Very well. How are you all?
Yeah, good. Pleasure to have you with us. So you have brewed one of the beers that's in the competition. Tell us about your beer.
So it's a barley wine, 12% beer. I brewed it in probably August, end of August, beginning of September. You usually get round to that time of year and think about getting something big and boozy brewed in time for Christmas. It's got Brandon Cross hops. It's got several different malts, some brown malt, caramel malts. So it's dark, fruity. Should be some toffee in there.
Exactly what I'm getting from it.
Sounds good.
Right, my notes.
We're gonna discuss each beer in turn. So we will be. I mean, no pressure. The fact that we've got you like literally sitting here looking at us while we do that, but we've all got our notes, so we'll come to it. Jack, I know that yours was the second strongest beer in the competition at 12%, because the strongest weighed in at a rather hefty 14.2, and that was Geoff's beer, who is also with us. How are you doing, Geoff?
Excellent, thanks, you.
Great. Tell us about your beer.
It's an imperial stout brewed around beginning of October. Quite a complicated, one of the most complicated beers I've produced, really. I did a step mash, which involved when you're mashing the grains and the water, pulling off a portion of the wort to raise the temperature, return it to the mash tun. I did that twice. 2 3/4 hour boil, and then I fermented it with 2 different types of yeast, 2 different strains, and then in secondary added coconut, cacao nibs, and vanilla, which was soaked in bourbon for about 5 days. So that's the resulting beer.
That was a beautiful description. I love that. I'm particularly a fan of the word cacao. I just think it's a brilliant word. Right, brilliant. So there is one beer that we haven't judged yet, which we are all drinking. I think some of us have already started actually and poured it. So the beer that we have left is this one. You can't see that because I've got my light switched on. But this is a strong, dark, ruby mild, which has been brewed by Paul. So 8 beers altogether. Here's how this works. So we have already done our scoring for 7 of those beers. The twist is I know the scores, no one else does. So I've done all the calculations, and I know that so far there is, between the top 2, there is 1.5 points in it, separating the top 2. So the question is whether the mild squeezes in there somewhere, or where it's going to fit in. So the mild, incidentally, is the least, I was going to say weakest, I don't think that's true, the least strong of the beers that we've got, coming in at 6.6%. So let's just do the runners and riders first, then we'll talk about each beer. So we have an ESB at 6.8% brewed by Ian. We have a Scotch Ale 9.6% brewed by Dan. We have a Bakewell Tart Stout brewed by Chris, which comes in at 9.7. We have Geoff's 14.2% Imperial Stout, which we heard him talk about. We have a Belgian Ale brewed by Steve, which came in at 8%. We have a Coconut Stout, which I'm not doing it justice by calling it that, but we'll go into details, at 10.9%, which Lance brewed. Jack's Barley Wine at 12%, as we mentioned, and Paul's Mild, 6.6%, which we are going to drink and talk about while we do the show. Right, let's talk about a beer first of all. And I didn't put those in any particular order. It was just the way that they fell on my iPad. So let's talk about the ESB first. And I'm going to ask Adam what he made of it.
Well, actually, it's the last beer I had. I had it this afternoon, about 1 o'clock. That's ESB.
That's why I'm asking you. It's freshest in your mind.
Not to kind of give away my scoring, but it was up there with my favourites so far. Just really, really drinkable. It's not a sort of style I have too much of. I can remember like there's the Fuller's one that I used to get in supermarkets. That's kind of one that sticks in my head, but it's not really like a beer that I'm that overly familiar with, but I just think it was the one beer that felt quite distinctly different from the other ones, apart from probably that actually the barley wine was probably slightly different. But after a few days of having quite really, really dark beers, it scored well with me. Really, really, really enjoyed it.
Would you like to know an interesting fact, Adam? Which is, so far, we've still got one to score, but so far you are the person that has given the lowest score to one of. So the lowest score out of all the scores that have been given. I mean, it was going to come from someone, but it's come from Adam. Let's see whether or not we can figure out which one it is from the way he talks about.
Adam.
I think it's a consistency thing. I think that Laura, I was talking to Laura, I think like it's kind of like she scored everything a bit higher and a bit lower itself. It's kind of all relative, really. So I think it all works.
True enough.
Yeah.
True enough. So I thought ESB, not my favourite style, but I found it very, very pleasant. It was a bit crisper and a bit fresher than a lot of similar beers that I've drunk in that style. Didn't have a lingering aftertaste, which I kind of associate with that kind of beer as well. So all in all, it got a decent thumbs up from me. Sean, what did you think?
Judging beer always difficult, James, because we all come with our sort of preconceived ideas about what we prefer and what we don't prefer, and judging perhaps is difficult because you shouldn't sort of score something down because you don't like it, and you shouldn't give anything a higher score because you love that particular style. Trying to bring balance, I always think, is quite difficult. For the ESB, I thought it was outstanding. Yeah, so one of my top scoring beers. I thought aroma was what you would expect from an ESB. I've given it a high score on aroma, and I would much prefer to smell a big double IPA because the aroma would feel much better for me. But judging it to the actual style, I thought the accuracy of the beer that Ian's done was really outstanding. So exactly what I thought an ESB should be, and I've given it a good score. Definitely, very impressed.
Let's jump back in quickly just to kind of. I've actually got my scores up now, but one thing that this came to mind is I gave it the same score for each of my 4 kind of categories that I'd started scoring. So I'm assuming that kind of makes this a very sort of a balanced, kind of across the board. It didn't really have anything that really like fell down or, spiked or anything. I think it was like super solid. Yeah. You got the same score for each of my 4 categories out of 5.
We should point out there that we've all scored slightly differently. We've all given a score out of 20, but how we've got there is been left to us individually. So Adam's divided it up into like 4 million subcategories that he's scored by half points and stuff. So I'm not going to ask him to explain it because we'll be here all night. Sean, interesting fact that you might want to know. Out of the 4 of us on the Hopcast, you overall gave the most number of points. So you were the most generous in your overall scoring, but not the most generous of all the judges because there is a 5th judge who's also scored, who's not with us tonight, which is Dave from Penistone Homebrew Club, who unfortunately was going to join us but can't be here. So I've got Dave's scores, and he James, was the most generous judge.
The reason Dave can't be here is a good one. Dave is the owner and head brewer at Whiteface Brewery. And they're opening a tap in Penistone, and he's there now. He's there now, fitting taps to his wall in his tap in Penistone. So that's a place.
It's a good excuse, isn't it?
We'll visit in 2021. Definitely visit.
James' hometown.
Broadcast from there. Also, that scoring, James, is interesting. That I know quite a lot of, if not all, of the entrants, and so does Dave. And I suppose we're always sort of tied into also personal relationships as well. But I've been very fair with me scoring, despite the fact it is difficult when you know everybody concerned.
Indeed. So, Jack, what did you make of Ian's beer?
I've not tried Ian's beer.
Oh well, there we go. So that's a 0 from Jack then. Geoff, have you tried them all?
I have tried most of them. I enjoyed Ian's beer. I think it's one of the best beers he's brewed. Absolutely fantastic, lovely. I think problem is with ESBs and stuff like that is the delivery that they come from a bottle, and if it came from cask, it always tastes that little bit better, I think. So it's but flavours I got from bottle were absolutely fantastic. So it was a lovely, well balanced beer, nice and fairly sweet up front, and a nice bitterness bringing it back. And yeah, fairly dry finish, but left you wanting to drink more. I think it was a lovely, well balanced beer.
Fair dues, thank you, Geoff. Right, let's move on then. Oh no, Laura, Have I asked you, Laura, about that one? I can't.
You haven't? No.
I'm trying to go in different orders, and it means I thought that I'd asked you first.
No, I think just to echo what everyone said, really well balanced. I think there's a few words that I'll probably say a lot through the course of this, and that's balance and excellent condition, which I think, without exception, the beers have all been as presented in a way that was really enjoyable to drink. I think I've actually judged, kind of backup judged a couple of years ago, I think, when I was lucky enough to come across to Penistone with Sean and Jim, who were sort of the official judges. So I knew that the standard was going to be high. And I've just had a great week getting festive with all these Christmassy beers. So I just wanted to say that before I get into specifics. But yeah, I thought the ESB had a really enticing aroma. I would have liked just a little bit more hop character from it, just to get a little bit more bitterness in there. But otherwise, it was really, really pleasant and really easy to drink, and tasty.
You can tell that Laura's the one that knows what she's talking about. That all made very good sense. I was impressed. All right, cool. We're going to move on then to the Scotch ale. I'll talk about this first because I've only ever had one Scotch ale before, and I think this was described as a spiced Scotch ale, if I remember correctly. The only one that I've had before was one that Brewdog did a few years ago called Santa Paws, I think it was called, and it was probably the worst beer that I've ever had, and I just couldn't drink it. It was absolutely awful. So to be honest, I was kind of dreading drinking this beer, but it was much, 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 much better. It was way more balanced, very drinkable. It didn't make me feel even close to feeling sick in the slightest. I've got to be honest, it's not my style, but it was actually very, very enjoyable. So probably the one that surprised me the most, that I really didn't think that I was going to like it. So it's Dan, isn't it, who did the Scotch ale. So I've got to give Dan a thumbs up for that, because I think he did a really good job of that. Sean, what did you reckon?
I've been to a fair few sort of judging things over the years now, but as a lucky result of being involved in Beer Central, and I don't think I've ever heard any judge at any event say it didn't come anywhere near close to making me sick, James. So congratulations. Congratulations for that.
Whose decision was it to involve me in this? I don't know.
But by saying that, I'm guessing that you were so appalled by Santa Paws that did perhaps make you close to feeling sick.
It really did make me feel sick, that beer. It was terrible. Honestly, the worst beer I've ever had. And so when I say I was nervous about drinking this Scotch ale, I mean, like, I was really, really bricking it. I was like, shall I just not drink it and just lie to them and say that I have done? I was really dreading it. But it was great.
Yeah, in the spirit of James, I perhaps should say this came nowhere near to giving me any diarrhea problems as a result of drinking it. We could go through a whole host of potential health issues as part of us judging. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favourite beer, I've got to admit, but I was pretty solid in terms of the actual scores. And I thought the accuracy of it in terms of it being a spiced Scotch ale was close. I found it a little bit thin, and so didn't enjoy it as much as some of the others. but nonetheless, again, an enjoyable beer that I finished right to the end. Got to make that point. I drank every one of these beers. I'm sure everyone has, right to the very end. There was nothing that was going to be sink poured at any point, nowhere near.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'd echo that. I think they were all the standard across the board is excellent. All right, Laura, Scotch ale, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up in some areas, but not my favourite just because I found a little bit of acidity that had crept into this one that I'm not sure it didn't quite sit with the rest of the beer. So it wasn't one of my favourites, but having said that, I thought it had a really, really nice roasted character, and Dan used coriander in there as the spicing, and I thought the coriander flavour came through really, really nicely alongside some really tasty sort of dried fruit flavours. So there was a lot to like about it, but it did lose a few marks just for that reason. But I thought it had a really nice yeast character as well, and again the condition was really, really good. So yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you. I've had to lose the Santa hat, by the way, because I was having a slight overheating problem. Adam.
Yeah, echoing a couple of things that Sean said, a little bit thin and virtually no carbonation whatsoever I got from my bottle. And then also what Laura said about the acidity, I've put slightly tart, which I thought was the complete opposite of what I'd expect from what I'd had of Scotch ales in the past. And that made me think that maybe something had crept into it that shouldn't be. So unfortunately, I didn't score it that high. It just wasn't something I really enjoyed that much, if I'm honest, and didn't really feel it. The end product was really on style, but I don't know if that's because it kind of just tasted a bit, like I said, a bit tart for me. So yeah, unfortunately, it was a little bit of a miss for me, I'm afraid.
Did I end up enjoying the Scotch ale the best out of all of them? Is that what ended up happening?
Yes, you did. Yeah, that's good.
Geoff, is this one that you tried?
I haven't tried it, but I know Dan always tries and pushes boat out.
Yep.
I'm not sure with this one whether he tried using Kveik yeast, which is a Norwegian Scandinavian farmhouse strain that ferments at high temperatures. I'm not right sure, but it does like to do quite complex things and push boat out where flavours are concerned. I think brewing like that, as I've done in the past as well, is quite risky. But it does some lovely ales, Dan. It does some nice ciders.
James,
as well.
Interestingly, Zoom have just changed your name on the little naming character to James McMarriott. So they're obviously listening in, and it's great to have that synergy from Zoom.
I thought you were going to make some kind of football comment then, Sean. So
you've taken the blue and white hat off, which is good enough for me. That was making me feel sick, but I feel a lot better now.
Great, thank you very much, Sean Clark. Right, okay. Next beer, the Scotch ale. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned 9.6%. We're going 0.1% higher for our third beer, 9.7%. And this is from Chris, who brewed a Bakewell Tart Stout. All right, Sean, what did you think?
I've had this beer before. Chris is a good customer of ours, and when I drop beers off for him down Royston way, he'll often he once gave me a loaf of bread, but mostly it's a beer he gives us a little treat. So I've had it before, really enjoyed it, giving it a good score, and you get all the flavours. The accuracy, I think, is bang on. The taste is bang on. The appearance was the only problem for me. It didn't pour well with a good head. The beer that we've just had from Paul, the Dark Ruby Mild, the look of that when I poured it into the glass was just unbelievable. Whereas on this occasion, the pour from Chris, I poured it well, but the head didn't retain really for very long at all. So slightly carbonated, the head disappeared. Everything about it I thought was really fantastic. Yeah, I love it. I love the beer. Second one was as good as the first one.
I'm to be honest quite surprised that I haven't seen more beers in that style, like Bakewell tart. So I mean, basically, it's almond and cherry flavors, isn't it? Because I thought it worked brilliantly. Now, I drank it last night, and I got very into the spirit of drinking it, and obviously was quite tipsy when I started writing my notes because they are handwritten. And I think I'm supposed to have written here, I love Bakewell tarts, but actually I've wrote, I love Bakewell twats. I'm not sure where that's come from, but that's what it says. So I thought, I love Bakewell tarts. I love stouts. What's not to love? I thought it tasted very real rather than synthetic.
Yeah.
I would have had absolutely no idea that it was a smidge off 10%. And I finished just by writing bravo with 3 exclamation marks. And I can't pay
You
any
were drunk, weren't you?
I was a little bit tipsy.
Bravo,
In fact, what happened
Sheffield.
after scoring this is that I booked a holiday and didn't realise until this morning when I woke up, and I'm like, "Why have I got emails from Ryanair?" So that was my Saturday night. Right, Laura.
No, hang on. Sorry, Laura. This is. Where's he going on holiday? Laura, you obviously want to know this, don't you? Where's he going on holiday?
The holiday is to
Germany.
it's to Germany, so it's
All right. Move on. Yeah, move
Berlin
on.
and then
Football,
Hamburg and then back to Berlin.
Move on. Sorry, Laura.
They're locking down anyway as of today, so come on.
So I think, well, firstly, I think the reason that there aren't that many beers that are flavoured with this is because they're really hard flavours to work with. Almond is one of those flavours that can present itself in beer when it's not supposed to be there, and I think it's one of those flavours like banana and things that it's kind of wise to avoid in a lot of cases, I think. However, I thought that for this beer, everything that was supposed to be there was there, and the flavours that were all perfectly harmonised. It, to me, tasted exactly as I felt it should have done, and I thought it worked really, really well, and was an excellent beer. I really enjoyed it.
Adam, what did you think?
Another consistent beer, and it's kind of in my scoring. It got the same mark for each of my 4 categories, and also my wife was doing all this at the same time. We shared them because obviously, I don't know. Well, if I'm going to sit and drink really strong beers, then I'm going to have to give her a little bit. This was a beer that we literally gave the same score. And we didn't come for. I've put a note, which is like I even copied it, and I like kind of laughed out when I saw it. I don't know, I can't even remember because it's a few days ago. I put not very stouty. I don't even know what I mean by that. I don't know whether it was a little bit too cold or carbonated, and maybe I'm just longing for a kind of a cask version or something like that. But solid, really. Looking at my aroma score, I was probably thinking I was going to get a little bit more from it from the aroma point of view, with it being quite a specific kind of, and strong as well. So when it's a bit stronger, you tend to get the aroma coming through quite heavily. And I think when I was reviewing it, when I was going back, I was thinking, oh, it's that one that's got like a really awesome aroma, but it's not. So I'm thinking maybe that's what let it down for me. Maybe just not quite as coming through on the aroma front. But yeah, solid.
Fair comments. Right, okay. Geoff, you feeling nervous? We're reviewing your beer next. You're next on the list. We're nearly halfway through. I feel really sorry for Jack because it's just the way that it's fallen that Jack is the penultimate beer that we're going to talk about. Where are you? Where's your confidence levels at the moment, Jack?
I've got a 10% imperial milk stout to
soften the blow,
the nerves at bay. So.
I was going to ask what you guys were drinking while we were all on the dark mild.
So I've got a Barrier Brewing Company from New York, Morticia Imperial Milk Stout.
Ooh, I got to share one of those the other day. Somebody at work brought a can over for us all to have a little taste.
A bit of a toss-up between a few beers. I've got a beer of Geoff's here, but I thought I'll not put him through the torture of having 2 of his beers dissected in one night.
I really like the can for that Barrier beer as well. It was great.
And what are you drinking, Geoff?
Well, I started night on my own brewed Sriracha Ace Pilsner, which I think that's the last bottle of, and my keg's kicked. But I've had a bottle at mild because I've been doing some backhanded trades with Paul to get hold of this mild because I think it's fantastic. I really,
Yeah, it is.
My dark horse for competition. I think on cask this beer will be outstanding. I think it's beautiful. So I've been saving this bottle, and this is my last one. So after we've done tonight, there'll probably be a few tears shed. That highly, I think it's fantastic. Really do.
It's a fair point. Right, we're going to talk about your beer now, Geoff. So it was 14.2%. Geoff gave us a description of it earlier on. Okay, Laura, going to ask you for your opinion first.
Okay, so I was really surprised when I opened the can because I poured it and I expected to be like thumped in the face by it, and I wasn't in a nice way. You have to get really in there and give it a really good sniff, which I thought was really impressive to say how strong it was. And I've written, how is this balanced? Because I just thought, I was like, it's 14.2%. It's got all these amazing massive flavors in it, which were all there, and it was still just really, really harmonious and really easy drinking, if I could say that about something that was so strong. See, I thought the bourbon from the vanilla, I thought came through really nicely and was a really nice addition, and a really nice, long-lasting, lingering finish. So yeah, just really rich and really tasty, and I thought it was great.
Excellent. I don't really know how to follow that because I did drink your beer last night, Geoff, during my clearly quite drunken evening. And I've put, okay, so much going on here. Dark, murky. The Muscovado, I assume that's Muscovado sugar, really comes through. When the taste settled, absolutely phenomenal. Proper earthy was my final comment that I wrote down. I think I'm just picking words out of a dictionary there, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic, just brilliant. And I think Laura summed it up brilliantly by saying so much going on, but all just worked really, really well together. And that is a heck of an achievement. Right, Adam.
Yeah, I've come through this with a few balanced kind of things, but like you said, for 14%, how balanced it was, and I think all the adjuncts and the ingredients and the I was thinking about how do you do something for like when people use bourbon casks and stuff like that, like how is that achieved when you're a home brewer, and like you're saying, you were soaking things in that to get to achieve that, and I really, really enjoyed that part of it. My only thing is, I think because there was so much ingredients and the strength, after a good few mouthfuls, and when I was drinking it, I was like, this is a lot going off and it's quite strong. And like, I think, remember Laura saying to me, we were chatting and she was saying, she didn't drink 14%, but I was thinking, it does drink 14%, or it's something, one of the ingredients is really kind of poking out, which makes me feel like it does taste strong. So I'm thinking like, if that was something about 10%, from as a personal kind of taste, awesome. The kind of things that kind of came to mind, like the Adamson kind of, the dessert, that kind of, not the zygote and stuff like that. They do these sort of 10% ones with the desserty kind of pastry ones. I know it's not really particularly pastry ones, but in that kind of really dark, strong beer, they're kind of what I liked. I think there was just probably a few too many things poking out that strength, I think. But yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, which it's not really the thing I tend to go for as a personal choice, bang on, really balanced. And like I said, achieving that strength. And to point out, who's ever had a homebrew in a can before?
That is also pretty impressive.
I think I brought it. Me and Laura, we'll probably mention it at the end, but me and Laura did some recording with some other podcasters yesterday. And we were talking about it, and they were like, "You've got what? Your homebrew in a can?" Oh yes, and it says Geoff on it. And then I thought, like, just Geoff for a name of a beer is just, should call a beer Geoff. A bit like Alan, who like Verdant, but I just really liked it. Silver can, black with text, Geoff, 14%. Find out what's in it. No ingredients. Yeah, solid. Yeah, enjoyed it.
we all know that Sean is the Dark Lord and the king of all things stouty. So, what's his opinion?
That description of me is quite a shock, actually, James. Yeah, I like most things. I like a stout at the end of the night. What's going to rub salt into Geoff's wounds here is that I drank that. I like Adam. I thought that was a Saturday night beer, so that was part of my celebratory drinks on Saturday night for the easy 3 points that we got against Sheffield Wednesday. So I apologise, Geoff, for mentioning that again live on air.
You have it in outside Town Hall on open top bus tour.
I really enjoyed it. I've had lots of. I'm going to ignore that comment. I've had lots of Geoff's beers before, both commercially brewed and home brewed. Truly outstanding brewer. Geoff was involved in my beer of the year, which I'm sure we might announce our own individual preferences on the next show before Christmas. This particular beer I scored highly apart from one thing. I split mine into aroma, appearance, and accuracy and taste, and it was just the appearance on mine. It is the first ever beer I've had in can as a home brewer. So Geoff, again, you've ticked another first there. But again, didn't quite pour as velvety and as unctuous and as silky smooth as that I was hoping for. And again, the head disappeared pretty quickly. So love the beer. The only score I marked it down on was accuracy, just like the majority of the Chef Wednesday strikers yesterday. So that's pretty fair. Really.
Sean, I can mute you. You know that can happen. It's never happened before on the Hopcast in the lockdown era.
James,
but, you know,
even with a mute, I can still do the score, buddy. So I will just go like that all day long.
I did forget to mention, by the way, that the Chris's beer, the Bakewell Tart Stout that we talked about before, I did mark that down by a point because it was in a recorderling bottle. I didn't really. That's not true.
That's where the added fruity flavour came from.
I think one of the things about beers with almonds and coconut in, the biggest problem you have with it is head retention and
yeah.
Oils and juices. It's quite tricky to.
It's an interesting question, that, Geoff, and Laura in my eyes is the top judge in amongst us all here. But should head retention be an equal part of the judging point process or not, or am I just barking up the wrong tree?
I think it depends on the beer. You know, if you know that there's a reason why it might not have lasted, then I think, you know, some styles are less
suited to it.
Yeah, you know, like if you, like for example, a lot of lambic beers, if you presented those and they were they had a load of foam on the top, you'd be like, what the hell's going on? But a lager that lost it, you might be like, so I think it is one of the things for style, and for me, I would bear in mind the ingredients that were in there and how they might have affected how that beer would present. Right. I personally don't use appearance or colour as a category when I judge, unless I'm forced to, because I think, especially in a lot of camera festivals that I've judged at, it's quite almost outdated now to rate a beer on its clarity and its colour and its appearance. You know, there are so many reasons why that can vary, and I think to me it's something that would fall more under the style thing. You know, if you've got a pale ale that's a bit brown, you'd mark it down for style rather than for appearance for me. So
yeah,
I don't like judging a book by its cover when it comes to beer, but I can see why it's in there and why people like to kind of think about it, but I kind of consider it as part of my style guidelines instead.
What's been said about just experience generally, though, isn't there? It's a bit of a wishy-washy kind of term, but if your enjoyment comes from that whole thing of, you know, it means there's no self-divide, you know, with like sparklers and stuff like that. It's like if you get a bit of a flat pint, which a southerner would probably prefer, you kind of a bit like,
Well done, Adam. Well done, Adam.
It's true. It's not a myth. it's true. Sparklers
Would they
is an
enjoy
awesome
it with
thing.
their jelly deals and
Pie and
ask
liquor.
anybody. It's a thing.
Liquor.
It's a thing. I stand by it. It's a thing. It's a million northern thing, though, isn't it? The sparkler. It is, but like I said, like you kind of just doesn't have that same appearance. But if that's what you're used to, and that's part of your experience of like drinking beer, then that's part of the package, isn't it? But if like us who were used to like a big thick creamy head on a pint, even in a bottle when you pour it, if there's nothing at all, you kind of a bit like, what's happened there? It doesn't, yeah. Regardless of like the knowledge of the ingredients, it's still that part of the experience, isn't it? And I suppose, I mean, you educated or not on it, it's just, yeah.
Right. I'm gonna move us on because we're only halfway through, so we're gonna press on, and we're gonna move on to Steve's beer, which was the Belgian ale, which came in at 8%. So actually, again, one of the less strong beers that we had. All right, first say on this goes to Laura.
Okay, so again, I enjoyed this beer. I thought it had a really nice toffee character in the background, which was really delicious. Like I said with the Spice Scotch Ale, when I felt that there was acidity in it that wasn't supposed to be there, there was a little bit of acidity in this that I was kind of like, that might be supposed to be there, and it kind of fitted in a bit better. It was a little bit more than I'd maybe have expected, but yeah, it didn't seem out of place, and I don't think it unbalanced the beer at all. So I thought overall it was really tasty and had some a really nice Belgian character to it.
See, now you've had the excellent descriptions from Laura. Now you get mine. I thought it was very keen on the pour. It took quite a while to settle down, and the only one that I had a bit of an issue with it just being a little bit lively. It had a strong aroma of the pub. I can't quantify how or why. I think it reminded me of something that I would have expected to get in Shakespeare's, and I kind of loved it. It's probably not a go-to style for me again, but I thought it was excellent. But I did write down that I think Sean is the judge for this one. I think I've said that for pretty much every beer, actually, but I know Sean is keen on his Belgian ale, so it'd be interesting to see that. And I find it by saying it didn't taste too boozy, very drinkable were my comments. Sean?
You definitely, I nearly said then I think you do, but no, you don't. You definitely overrate my judging skills when it comes to beer. And your comments, James, have been very enjoyable tonight, actually. I wish I'd done exactly the same.
Did you particularly enjoy the description of it, aroma of the pub? I thought was...
No, I preferred they didn't make me sick earlier, but the aroma of the pub was excellent. I'm going to be nice and quick because I know we're pushing for time. Enjoyed it, Steve. Knowing Steve, acidity is something he does go for, but it was very overcarbed. Both to drink, it was a bit of a burper, but flavour great, but a bit just too overcarbed, I thought, to really enjoy it as a proper Belgian dark.
Okay, and Adam.
Well, yeah, I think I sent a video around of mine sat in the sink bubbling over. It took a while to get to a point where I could actually pour some of it. But luckily I did get to drink some of it because generally I enjoyed it. It scored its highest thing in the aroma category and its lowest in taste, but it did do well in style, in style and drinkability. I think taste and drinkability is a bit of a weird one. I don't know why I did them two things, but there's a distinction between those two things. But yeah, it did all right. It's probably definitely the top half of my scoring. So yeah, just a shame that it was, like I said, just bubbling over, big time over carbonation or something in there. So it's kind of
really well behaved, my bottle.
Yeah.
I thought you'd had the problem with the bitter.
Oh.
I can't.
Sorry,
I
Jack,
can't.
what was that?
I was just saying that's a shame because I had that same beer from Steve. Last lockdown, I think. So it must be March, April time, I think. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. fantastic.
It tasted it was a good beer. I think it just did a couple of things spoiled, but I thought the aroma was really good. Like I wouldn't call it a pub smell, but I think it was inviting for me. I think so. Yeah.
That aroma in a pub sort of thing could be from esters at beer. The esters it produced, really nice beer. But like I say, it were about 3 or 4 months ago that I had it, so it might have, if it's been sat somewhere warm, it could have carved up a hell of a lot more and being a bit too excitable for you guys.
Okay, right. Next, we're on to Lancer's beer. I've just been finding the description of this one so I can do it justice. I mentioned it earlier and said I need to revisit this to give it a proper description. So it's a 10.9% coconut imperial stout with maple, vanilla, and coconut. Adam, what did you think?
I got my top score of any beer for aroma. I think looking at this. It smelled amazing. It really had like a nostalgic smell of kind of like them coconut kind of cakes you used to get like as kids that you get from Couplands or whatever. But it had a really, really distinct smell, and it was like really like. But it did taste a little bit thin for the strength, I thought. And I think it needed a little bit more sweetness to it. I think I was expecting it to be a bit sweeter. I think coconut, I feel like it does that more dessert sort of end of the adjunct spectrum. But it scored well. It scored well, really well. So yeah, decent. And it didn't, like I said, all these beers really didn't taste as strong as they actually are. You kind of forgot that even though we're drinking them after a few beers early in the evening, or drinking these quite late on in the evening, as you would kind of to finish off a night maybe. Yeah, I thought the style and the aroma kind of were spot on. Really, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I made notes about the aroma. Well, I thought the whole thing was just like it was just pure coconut. So I thought that the aroma was very coconutty. I thought the taste was very coconutty. For me, it didn't particularly try to disguise how strong it was. And we've had quite a few strong beers over the course of judging, and this was one that felt quite booze forward to me, and that made it feel maybe just a little bit unbalanced, and at times it was a little bit challenging. And I'm not sure if that's a criticism, because I think sometimes a beer that's quite upfront about being quite strong is not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, overall, what did I put here? So many beers now hide how strong they are. I'm fine with a beer that gives you a right punch in the face. I really enjoyed it, is what I wrote down. So there we go. I'm hoping from this that I'm going to be invited to do lots more judging on beer competitions, because I feel like I'm doing a great job here. Right then, let's ask Sean.
James, I think your judging contract would have been better suited with fine with beers that gave me a kick in the nuts rather than slap in the face. I think you'd be guaranteed many appearances with that one. I again enjoyed the beer. I perhaps put too much. This is relatively rare, I suppose, being packaged, whereas a lot of judgment comes from cask beers at beer festivals and so on. So I perhaps put too much emphasis on what I regard as the most exciting time. That's taking the bottle, can, in Geoff's case, that beer, and being really excited. What
was in Sean?
And so, say again.
I think we lost you a little bit there, Sean.
Apologies. Right.
We're having connection issues.
I was on pouring the beer and opening the can, and so that's the only thing I marked it down on again. But with the adjuncts that are in there, perhaps I've been slightly harsh in expecting a better pour or a nice retention and a big, thick, velvety feel. So just felt a little bit thin. Scored it well, but appearance was again. And I'm not judging the colour of it in terms of appearance. I'm judging. I suppose I should judge more the opening of the beer, the pour, and the excitement of watching that beer fall into your glass before you drink it. So that's the only thing I marked it down on slightly, in that it didn't fill me with love and joy as I poured it into the glass. But it upped its game once I started to drink it.
That was such a. I felt like quite sad there. He said it didn't feel. What did you say? It didn't fill me with love and joy
Love
as
and
I
joy.
poured it into the.
Yeah, every beer I open,
I think that's
of
possibly
any
the harshest
kind-
thing you've ever said.
The pour is a particularly important thing to. It really is. Any beer that I have, there's a high pitch of excitement at pouring that beer in and looking at it first before then smelling it and tasting it and so on. I do put an emphasis on that. That might be wrong for judging.
No, I love it. I think it's
purposes.
brilliant. I'm going to start using it on Tinder when I swipe right. Someone says, "Sorry, you didn't fill me with love and joy." So swipe left. Right, brilliant. Okay, so who have I not asked? Laura, I've not asked you.
Do you just want a beer, Sean, that if you open it in a bottle, it does a really like, and then you pour it in and you hear the.
Yeah, that's a 5. You've just described a 5, Laura. There.
And like the head is like perfectly moves up. Like
And actually, Laura, the Abbeydale cans, they do that for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
they do that
I'm
for me.
pleased.
They do.
So for Lance's beer, I pretty much wholeheartedly agree with you, James. I thought it was massive on the aroma, that was really inviting, really nice and creamy. But I also found it just a bit initially when I first started drinking it, found that the booze level meant that some of the other flavors didn't come through quite as much because I was getting so much alcohol off it. But the way to get around that was just to carry on drinking it, because you kind of, you get used to the high alcohol levels in there, and the booze starts to settle as my taste buds got used to it. And so once I got past the booziness, I thought the coconut and maple and everything came through really nicely, gave a nice sweetness and a good roast character in the finish. So again, I thought it had a really nice balance to it.
Here is another interesting Hopcast fact that I've worked out while you've been talking, Laura. That this is the beer that we agreed on the most, in that 3 out of the 4 of us gave it exactly the same score, and the 4th person only gave it half a mark difference to the rest of us. So it got the most consistent scores across the board. There we go. Right, we've got a couple of beers left. The last one that we drank during the week. This is the moment for Jack. The pressure is on. So it is Jack's barley wine that came in at 12%. Adam, what did you think?
my first beer. It was the first beer I tried, and I don't know why. I think we all got together on the chat, and I think or maybe James had opened it, and me and Laura decided we should probably open it at the same time, and that's where we started. It's not a style I'm familiar with. So I was kind of, if I was to give, Sean, just dropping your glasses there.
Drop the glasses.
If it's
Drop
not
my
something I go
glass,
to,
my
and
glasses.
it's not something I'd kind of particularly like, maybe look forward to drinking. But luckily, Jack, I really, really, really enjoyed it. It scored very highly on everything. And the only thing that went sort of mid-table was aroma. I just didn't really get much from it. I think I put it's not got a bad aroma. It's just not much of it. There was a really nice carbonation. It was really nice and nice toffee notes. And it was my benchmark beer throughout the week. It did really well. My wife did exactly the same. And it did get a top. A full marks from me and my wife actually for drinkability, and for a barley wine at 12%, which we're not really it's not something we really drink much of at all. I think something to good beer. Enjoyed it. I didn't know you were coming on, by the way. I'm not bullshitting you because you're on. But yeah, it's spot on. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to slightly echo, I think, what you've said there, Adam, in terms of the fact that I also made a note that it is a style that traditionally I've kind of struggled to connect with for whatever reason. And I think we've had this conversation a few times on the Hopcast where I've said I just struggle a bit with barley wines. Don't know why it is, but I just do. But I can't take anything away from this because I thought it was an excellent interpretation, mega drinkable and super enjoyable were my phrases. I just felt, because it's a style that I can't connect with, I felt it was difficult for me to judge it and compare it to other kind of similar beers. So I struggled a little bit in that sense, but actually really enjoyed it. And massive compliments there. Right, who have we not spoke to about this one? Let's ask Laura.
So again, I thought it was really drinkable. Unlike you two, James and Adam, I am a huge barley wine fan. And I wasn't disappointed at all by this one. Really well conditioned, really nice toffee, boozy, lovely character. The only thing I found was slightly off style was I found it had a little bit more of a yeast character than I'd expect, which it was a really nice kind of ester character. It's just something that was a little bit surprising to me, but I thought it drank really well, and Jim shared them all with me, and he thought the slight estery presence there was an addition that made a barley wine better. So we both really enjoyed it, and that I think it was not too heavy either. It was really good drinking.
Thank you. And Sean.
I marked it terrible a bit now. Jack's on with us. Obviously, I need to change things. No, Jack is a good customer of Beer Central, and he's also very generous in letting us try lots of his home brews. I already know that he's an outstanding brewer. This was my joint top scorer of the week, and in terms of accuracy, I gave it top marks. Really outstanding. And I think barley wines are lots of different beers can be supped at different times, but I think in particular with barley wines, you have to drink it in the right circumstances. So it has to be dark, it has to be quite cold. I think as a physical human being, you have to feel a little bit of chill. Perhaps imagine standing watching a Sheffield Wednesday match for nearly 2 hours on a cold Saturday evening.
Hang on, where's that mute button? It's going.
If you went home and supped a barley wine, then even a match like yesterday's would be a cheerful experience.
I think Sean's been drinking since full time.
We've got to try and get him to wish everyone a Merry Christmas later on. This will take another hour.
Geoff, sorry, Geoff, I've had 3 pints. Sorry, no, 3 points is what I meant to say.
Oh dear.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
Cheers, Jack. It was brilliant.
Jack, do you reckon fair comments?
Yeah, I'm happy with them all. I'm glad you all liked it. That was my longest brew day ever. So I don't know if you know much about brewing, but I can fit maybe 7.5, 8 kilos of grain in my system, and that required 9.5. So I had to do 2 mashes, 2 boils, and then combine the 2 work. I was up until like midnight brewing that thing, so I'm glad you all liked it.
Good.
Do you know what, Jack? As you kind of say that and talking about being your longest brew day, it's just kind of a reminder to me that these are homebrew beers, and I mean we've got one more to talk about, but across the board, the standard was absolutely phenomenal, like just amazing. I don't think there's any of those beers that I would say would be out of place being served in a pub. I thought every single one of them, even the ones where I'm like, maybe not my style or anything like that, I didn't think, oh, that just tastes poor. Like they were just, the standard was just fantastic. And yeah, I mean, what you've got going on in Penistone, I think is just amazing. Right, we've got one more beer left to talk about. It's the one that we've been drinking about on the show. It is the 6.6% mild that Paul did. So this is a strong, dark ruby mild, it says on the bottle, brewed with summer and, it's rubbed off a bit, Golding hops, barley and oats. 6.6%. All right, let's go to Laura.
Ooh, hi. So again, as I think this was another one that was really nicely in balance. One of my favourite beers to drink around Christmas time, and I haven't had it for years, is Sarah Hughes Dark Ruby Mild. And I thought this wasn't a million miles off that, to be honest. I thought it was smooth, rounded, really tasty. And I think Geoff said earlier, I'd already written down, I would love to try this pulled through an Angram. I think it would be a phenomenal cask beer. So yeah, thought it was good.
And what is your score for it, Laura?
Well, I've sent it you. I thought we were keeping them secret.
No, this is the one where I'm going to ask you for the actual score.
Oh, okay. 16.
Okay, that's actually gone up from the score that you sent me.
I rounded one up when I carried on drinking it.
I'm glad that I asked.
15.5.
It was 15.5. It's gone up to 16. That's a good sign. That means it's got better as you've drunk it. Okay, I feel like a bit of a stuck record here in terms of saying mild is not generally a style that I would go to, but it really isn't. And we have talked about milds a few times, and I've just kind of said I just don't get it. I don't really understand mild, and therefore I've not drunk a lot of them. And this falls into the category of whatever it was that we talked about earlier, where I said I am so surprised at how much I've enjoyed drinking this beer. It is super, super drinkable. I think the fact that it's actually one of the less strong beers it just allows you to enjoy the taste. I'm amazed at how much I've enjoyed it, and I have scored it 15. So slightly less than Laura. I should mention, by the way, Dave, who we mentioned earlier on, he sent us his score for this. He scored it 17. So these are scores out of 20. Obviously, you don't know the benchmark, but this is what we're doing. Right, Sean.
Brilliant beer, and I scored 3 all the highest through the week, and they were all the ones actually I didn't realise, but they're all the ones the sort of styles rather than adjuncts in and extra flavors. So that might mean I'm becoming a bit simpler with my love of beers, but I gave it 2 5 points. The only thing I scored it down for was aroma, but then again it's a mild, so it's not going to have donkey sort of loads of aroma in there. So I'm being a bit unfair perhaps, but I've scored it 17, and thought fantastic, yeah, truly fantastic. And of course the pour on that was, I'm sure everybody might have got the same, was amazing. Pour was absolutely amazing, thrilled me. What's tap brewing stand for, Geoff? Tap, TAP?
I'm not right sure.
Right.
He makes synthesizers for a living. From his attic. So
it could be something to do with synthesizers. We'll have to find out. But really loved it. Absolutely loved it.
This is getting tense, this. I can see all the scores. Right, we're going to go to Adam.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. When kind of certain things just remind you of stuff, and it might not even be anything close to it, but it reminds me of must be 10 years ago. The first time I went to Liverpool, full stop, and I went on a day drinking and went to a gig in the evening. And actually, this might be miles off the actual kind of comparison, but it's what it reminds me of the time. And is it Kane's Brewery or whatever? They're like a really old school Liverpool brewery. Yeah. And they do like a raisin beer, and I get a lot of raisin from this beer. I don't know why, I just get like a really raisiny flavour. And as soon as I drank it, it just made me think of that brewery, and I have no idea if it is their raisin beer that they do, which it tastes like. But yeah, it's really, it's just so well balanced, and I think I would like to. I think I've scored my 2 highest scores were the same score, and I think based on drinkability, I think this just pips it. So I'm going to give it a 17. So that's actually been my top scorer. But yeah, fantastic, really good. Again, okay. It's like, so I think of mild as a kind of usually a bit of a weaker sort of style, but yeah, the strong mild is, yeah, I loved it.
Right, okay. So I've got to now reveal the scores.
How good is his maths? How quick is his maths?
Not very good. Okay, that goes there.
He's sending off for verifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get to Donald Trump.
I'm gonna do the top 5 in reverse order. So starting off at number 5 with, so altogether these are out of 100 because there's 5 of us and we've scored them out of 20 each. So that's right, isn't it? 20.
Yes.
Okay. So in 5th place with 74 points is Ian and the ESB. In 4th place with 77.5 is Lance with the coconut stout. So, right, 3 beers left. In 3rd place with 78 points, Geoff, you're in 3rd.
These
It's a
are
good
all
score.
so close.
Really close, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that leaves us with 2 beers left. If you've been doing your maths, then you will know as we've been going around doing the scoring that the mild scored 82. So it is in the top 2. The question is whether the other beer got more or less. So I'll tell
Is it
you
Jack?
that the other beer is Chris with the Bakewell Tart Stout. So the mild got 82. Chris and his Bakewell Tart Stout got 79.5. So the mild, well done to Paul, is the winner. And actually the winner by a good 3.5 points, which is incredible. Kind of, last minute, outside lane, coming up, all the superlatives. I'm sure Sean can do a better job of describing all the superlatives there as to how it was like, the outsider and came from nowhere. But that is fantastic. And well done to Paul.
Done.
Yeah, well done,
How
Paul.
close all of them.
We said dark horse. We said that was the dark horse. Yeah.
Funny thing is, when he brewed this, he said it's not come out right well, guys. And he gave a few of us at the beginning of lockdown one to try.
Mm.
I hadn't had one for a couple of weeks. And we opened it and we were like, Jesus, it's phenomenal. And it's just better and better and better and better. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'd love to have this on cask.
What's Paul's surname, Geoff? What's Paul's surname? Is he a Penistone lad?
Paul Darlow, Earl of Tankersley. If we can just get that in on there, because I love to.
Earl of Tankersley.
He's got a bit of land behind his house, and he's quite green-fingered, this Paul. And he's very generous with his produce as well. So we've whenever he's brought beer, we've had a bit of salad, or I've had some grape skins, which Jack will be happy about.
We were warring over those grape skins.
Yeah, we were. And they're sat in my lambic style sort of beer up there. So I think Gary G's, but Paul's beer, to me, I've not had a better beer this year, I don't think. It's been fantastic. For an homebrewed beer to be that good is phenomenal. I think it's fantastic.
Can I
It's
just
really-
repeat my point
Is that from-
earlier just about the standard across the board
Yeah.
was just brilliant. It really was.
Is it not from Penistone then? Disqualified.
It sounds like he's a Sheffielder, Adam.
From Green Moor, so it's
Is he a Wednesday fan, Geoff? Is he a Wednesday fan?
It's the Barnsley, isn't it? Tankersley.
And it's really nice as well, though, how it's really obvious from chatting to you two, Geoff and Jack, that you can tell that you're all friends and that you all kind of work together and that it's a real little community that you've got. And I think that comes across as well in the standard of the beer. Obviously it was a competition, but it's, you all want each other to be all making good beer and, working together and spurring each other on to all enjoy what you're drinking, which I think is just absolutely wonderful. And yeah, I was really impressed by literally all of the beers and the scores. I think we're all close between those, James, and also all high.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
were. They really were. Jack, by the way, you missed out on the top 5 by 1 point. It was at the start of the night. You were there. You were in the top 5, and then Paul comes along and Yeah, he obviously storms to the top of the leaderboard, and there we go, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and seriously, the beers were fantastic. I hope that at some point in the not too distant future that we can actually get together and enjoy beers together again. Yeah, just a fantastic job all round. Just super impressed. Well done, and please pass that on to
James,
everyone else.
James, thanks for doing that extra half hour. I'm sure you're up at 3 a.m. in the morning, so that is much appreciated.
I'm not actually.
Oh.
Is this building towards some kind of football thing? Because this is what you've been doing.
No,
all
no,
night,
no.
so
I was just thanking you for going
we'll give
extra mile.
last comment to Sean just to get it out of his system. Go on, gloat all you need to gloat. Get it done.
Say Merry Christmas.
Geoff, as we didn't have a bet, but I was going to have a bet with you. And what you should call your next beer, Geoff, is easy 3 points.
Can I just tell you? Have a look at a beer that I brewed in summer. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but it is actually minus 12 best bitter.
Oh.
So it's you know,
You
it's
need to
well
rename
known.
that.
And then
Minus
EFL
6
spoilt it for you, Geoff, didn't they? Yeah, they spoilt it. Bloody
It's a minus,
ridiculous.
but it's you know, you won. You were due one, to be fair. I think it's your first win in about 15 attempts, isn't it? So it's been coming.
11 years.
Oh,
11 years.
Well, yeah, it's been a long 11 years, but it's been an enjoyable 24 hours.
Right. One last thing that we've got to try and do, which is, Sean, you've got to repeat the words. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you a Merry Christmas.
I can do it tonight. I'm in the zone. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Oh, we've not got Sean drunk enough.
No,
right, guys,
no,
it's
I'm
been an
not.
absolute pleasure. Thank you. Have a fantastic Christmas. We are hopefully going to be sneaking back before Christmas with an extra episode, but we've not sorted out the details yet, so I can't tell you too much about it. But hopefully next weekend we'll be making one final pre-Christmas appearance. But it's been a pleasure. Well done to Paul. Well done to everyone for making fantastic beers, and have a brilliant Christmas. See you all later.
See ya.